Thank you. Hi, this is Michael Makovsky, President CEO of JINSA. Thanks for joining us. I'm here as often we are with my colleague, General Yaakov Amidror, retired former National Security Advisor, the Prime Minister Netanyahu, and a JINSA Distinguished Fellow. General Amidror, thanks for joining at this hour in Israel. Look, the topic of the day is what's going on in Gaza. The cabinet met this evening. Could you first, before we talk about what should or should not be done, you want to please say what the cabinet is deciding, please?
Yes, the cabinet, the first decision was taken by Hamas. Hamas decided to stop the negotiations, and the option which many Israelis want to pick is the option of giving up Gaza to let Hamas continue control Gaza, but to get the 20 live hostages back. For many Israelis, this is priority number one, and they are ready to take all the risks in Gaza Strip in the future, because it is clear that if we are evacuating Gaza, Hamas will remain there as the only strong force. Is not strong enough to attack Israel, but is strong enough to not let anyone to enter to Gaza. I don't see any third party ready to come to Gaza. But many Israelis thought that should be done. First of all, high priority, we will take all the other issues later on. We will take the risks, bring us the hostages, and we will begin from the beginning. That is not an option because Hamas is not ready to negotiate. Then the cabinet has two options. One which is recommended by the IDF, and one is recommended by the Prime Minister. The IDF said because they don't want to get to the situation in which the IDF is responsible for the life in Gaza, education, sewage, police, whatever, everything. They said we don't want to take the whole Gaza Strip. What we want is to encircle the enclaves of Hamas in north part of Gaza and the center, the refugee camp in the center of Gaza, and then to raid in and out all the time to make the life of Hamas inside impossible, but not to take control of the whole area. That will be easier from another point of view. Remember that the IDF is in a constant war in the last 2 years. The regular army is regular army. The young people, they can continue, but half of the force in Israel are reserve units. And in reserve unit, you have many people which are learning in university. So someone who made 200 days a year in Gaza, he will not finish the BA of him that he's learning in the university. The shop owner in Tel Aviv, if he 200 days a year is not in the shop, he will lose the shop, the business, everything, and so on and so forth. So within half of the IDF forces, the reserve units, it's a huge problem. How we can see it very clearly, at the beginning of the war, when we called the reserve unit into action, the appearing of the people was more than 100%. I mean, all people which supposed to be out of the unit came and say, guys, I'm not leaving. If you are going to war, I'm with you. And it was more than 100%, 120%. In some part of the brigade, it was even 135%. Today, it's around 80%. 80% is not bad. In many cases, the soldiers speak with the commanders, and the commanders are giving them the permission not to come because they understand the problem they are facing, either it is university or in his business and so on and so forth. But this is something that the chief of staff say that we have to take into account and to find a way which in which we use less forces to achieve the same target. And he was very clear, he clarified this morning to all those who had some hesitations, that he said in our system, the aim at the end, the mission at the end is dismantling and destroying Hamas. But he is offering a different way. The Prime Minister thinks that after so many days, we cannot continue with go in and out. We have to take the forces which are needed, it is probably 4 divisions, to go into the north part, including Gaza City, to the center, including the refugee camps. And it will take few months, but after that, the north will be like Rafah, without any establishment of Hamas, without weapon systems. We will have to go then and to look for the Hamas, which will move with the civilians into the designated areas into which we want the civilians to move. But that is another story, without tunnels, without all the facilities that they have in Gaza. That will be decided today in the cabinet. The Prime Minister probably will say what he thinks. The Chief of Staff will present his concerns and his offer, and the ministers will have to make decisions.
Let me, I got some specific questions, and then overall, based on what you just said, one of the specific questions, I believe General Zamir, the Chief of Staff of the IDF, said, by going into these cities, and I think Israel, the idea is that the IDF are going to cities they haven't been in because they think there are hostages there. Is that right?
Yes.
Fear is that if you have soldiers going there near where the hostages are, that the hostages will get killed by the Hamas terrorists, because the Hamas.
This is true about both offers. That is true about the raids, and this is true about taking the whole Gaza Strip. The raids will go into those areas in which we know that there are hostages.
So, I mean, I guess the broader, and I know you kind of referred to it, but and we've talked about this before on webinars, but just to ask this again, there are a few folks, I mean, who thought, okay, this was an important effort, but at this point, what is Israel going to gain? How do you kill every Hamas soldier? I know the fear is that if you don't go in and you cut a deal, I think, and you do a full ceasefire, a cessation of hostilities, and hopefully the hostages would come out, that Hamas would reconstitute. But I guess the question is, one, do you even think a deal like that is possible? That if Israel said, we'll stop the war, that Hamas would actually release all the hostages? That'd be question one. And question two is, how confident are you that Israel could succeed in what it seems like it wants to achieve in this?
Okay, about the first question, from what we hear from the Egyptians, the Qataris, and the Americans, which are going between us and Hamas, not directly, but through Qataris and Egyptians intelligence guys. The Hamas now is not ready to negotiate. So it's not an option. It's a theoretical option which does not exist. I believe, my assessment is that if Israel declare, we are accepting all Hamas demands, give us Hamas will agree to that. But I don't see anyone in Israel which will be ready.
Sorry, you said they will agree? I couldn't understand.
Yes, they will agree. My assessment is that they will agree. If Israel declare publicly, Bibi stand with the president and say, we are accepting all Hamas demands, and the president say, I guarantee that Israel will not attack, I believe that they will be ready to I don't know, because what these representatives of the moderate says that they are not ready to negotiate, but it's not negotiation, it's capitulation. About the second question, now after we did it in Rafah and Jabalia, we believe that it can be done. Gaza City is not Jabalia and not Rafah. It's something much bigger, much complicated, with much more underground tunnels and so on and so forth. But if you take these two examples, at the end, we can do it. It is at the end, the land looks like the moon land, but we can do it based on the experience in Rafah and Jabalia. It can be done. It's a long process. First of all, we have to gain the operational control of the area. It will be an intensive war against the organized remnants of Hamas. And then, I don't know, a few months to clean it on the ground, under the ground. This is very Sisyphic war, very slow. There is no center of gravity that you go to. You have to go from place to place and to clean it, and then to be sure that no one is coming back. It is complicated. And this is why we need many units on the ground to fulfill the mission.
How many, I guess, well, before I ask them about the operational stuff, who is the U.S. really negotiating with? And, given that Israel has decapitated Hamas and killed a lot of their leadership, what confidence is it that the leaders in Qatar or in Turkey of Hamas are reflecting the wishes of the Hamas on the ground? I mean, I know
in Gaza Strip there is one senior commander who was the only one which remained from the first echelon of first and second echelon of Hamas. He was the second. He was a commander of the north part of Gaza. He's now in his own area, controlling Hamas in the Gaza Strip. He was the commander of Gaza Strip at the beginning of the war. There is someone who went a few days before the war from Gaza, and he's part of the negotiation team. And of course, there are the leaders who are living in Qatar, and this is the group which is making the decision. But at the end of the day, it's the guy from Gaza who has the last word, and the communication is done through Qataris and Egyptians, more Qataris, but few Egyptians, to those guys of Hamas outside Gaza, and they are communicating with their people in Gaza.
Look, there are those who say, and I could name names, they supported the war until recently and say, look, the cost is just too great going forward, and you're going to kill more IDF soldiers, you're going to put the hostages at risk, and it's an impossible mission. It's not like what Israel did in Iran or Hezbollah. You didn't try to wipe out the whole country or the whole organization. Here, Israel's trying to wipe it out. And is it really possible? And is it, I guess, worth the cost in the near term, I guess?
About the cost, it's question of what you have in mind about the future of the state of Israel. Remember that the whole war began with these people of Hamas. The argument of those who are preaching for going after every Hamas member and take control of the whole Gaza Strip is, if we go out, when Hamas is still controlling Gaza, the feeling around us will be Israel failed to fight against this terrorist. Terrorism is a good way to achieve what the Palestinians need. Look what happened around the world. Many countries, because of the war, are recognizing the Palestinian state. In a kind, it is a price for those who initiated the war. It's a price to the terrorists. It's a price to the atrocities which had been done in the 7th of October. Israel must show the Arabs, our neighbors, close to Israel and far from Israel, and enemies of Israel, which are not Arabs, that someone who did something like what had been done by Hamas in the 7th of October will not exist. He should be eliminated from earth. Otherwise, many people might think in the future, and many leaders might make decisions based on this assumption, that at the end of the day, Israel cannot fight terrorism, cannot win against terrorism, and this is the way to annihilate Israel. Okay, it was not a great success after the 7th of October, but Israel didn't win. Israel lost the war against Hamas. That will be the atmosphere around Israel. And if we speak about the future of Israel, not about tomorrow. Tomorrow, you are right. Tomorrow, it's a high price. It's a long war. The Europeans don't like it. Many people in America don't like it. Huge problem. But it is very short range. If you look at the long range, the ability of Israel to eliminate Hamas, and it can be done if we will take control of the whole Gaza Strip. It's an entry. They don't have where to run to. We slowly we find every one of them either will be arrested or will be killed. And it will be clear that Hamas is not an organization which is controlling Gaza. Yes, there are people who believe in Hamas. There are people with some Kalashnikovs and RPG, and from time to time they kill an Israeli soldier, like Jenin. Gaza will be like Big Jenin. That will be the example that we want to achieve. Area A in the whole Gaza Strip. Someone from the outside, the Palestinian Authority, an Arab state, whatever, will come in and will be responsible for rebuilding Gaza and for the civilian life. And Israel will be responsible for the security of Israel. That's all. So the example that we have in mind is Area A, and that can be achieved. It will take between 6 to 12 months, but it can be achieved. The first stage will be very intensive, and then cleaning up, it will take time. And those who have historic vision and understand the long-range issues of Israel, how a state of 8 million people survive in an area encircled by 200 million or more Arabs, and I don't count all those who are not Arabs, Israel will have to show that there are red lines. If someone crosses them, he will not survive. And in the 7th of October, many red lines had been crossed by Hamas. If Hamas survive, the message for the world will be, yes, we can do 7th of October and survive.
Let me, I'm just going to continue to play devil's advocate because,
No, it's good. It's good. I didn't say what is my view. I say those who are for the the full conquer of Gaza, this is their argument.
Yeah. Well, you should say what you think. It seems like you were, but please clarify if you're not. I guess in a way, it's a shame. Israel, it's almost forgotten that Israel won this tremendous campaign or war, the 12-day war in June. Unbelievable. It just capped, beating Hamas, Assad falling. It's an amazing achievement. And it seemed like there was a lot of momentum now. If they could just settle Gaza, we could pivot to normalization with the Saudis. There were a lot of opportunities. But, if this war in Gaza is going to go on for, as you suggest, possible for another 12 months, all that good stuff is going to, be postponed, I guess. And, and will Israel be able to achieve? And I guess one other question, you could argue, even if it's not a complete victory, but Israel still has done it's hard to argue that Israel hasn't achieved significantly what it wanted to achieve in Gaza, which was, the leadership is completely wiped out. The country, the area is in ruins. You think that alone is not sufficient as a signal to everybody? If you do October 7th to us, we're gonna come after you. You think Hamas has to be completely wiped out?
You connected some issues together. Let's speak about what people call expanding the Abraham Accord. I can tell without giving any secret in public that many of the Arab leaders which condemn Israel for Gaza under the table tell us, guys, finish the job. The Middle East without Hamas is a better Middle East. They cannot say it, but they are saying it under the table. And as you know, under the table in the Middle East, it's very crowded. Issue number one. Issue number two, if we want someone, I don't know who, to enter Gaza the day after and to rebuild Gaza, to invest in Gaza, to find people that will invest in Gaza, I don't know, the $30 billion which are needed to build the Gaza again. If Hamas will remain there, no one will come in. Or I'll say, if someone will come, it will be the Lebanese model. He will be the frame, and Hamas within the frame will do whatever it wants. Israel will not allow it to happen, so no one will come in. And the people of Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, doomed to live like in unbelievable situation for the next 100 years, because no one will come to rebuild Gaza. The only way to achieve something that will change the life of the people in Gaza is to get rid of Hamas, and then maybe, I'm not sure, third parties from the Arab world and from the West world will be ready to come in and to say, okay, Hamas is not there. Let's have a model of a Palestinian state without Hamas. We will build it together. We, the Arab states, the West, whatever money which will come. All those who are preaching us not to kill the Palestinians, maybe they will bring the money to build for the Palestinians. By the way, everyone is preaching us what not to do. No one is telling us what we can do or what we should do, other than capitulated for Hamas demands. So because of that, I think you are right that it will be postponed, because the Abraham Accord cannot be expanded when we are fighting in Gaza. But after, if we succeed in Gaza, it will be much easier to expand the Abraham Accord, and it will be much stronger.
What else was going to ask? Look, I think those were my main questions. I guess, obviously, someone asked me last night, does the government care that, Democrats here in the United States are very critical of Israel on this issue? I apologize for the wind. For logistical reasons, I had to be outside. But it seems like at least President Trump has been very supportive of Israel. I'm not going to tell Israel what to do here. And that seems to be really what the government cares mostly about, is that the President of the United States is supportive and, if unfortunately leads others in the country to be more critical of Israel, so be it. Right?
We understand that we are losing support around the world, within the Democratic country, within the Republican Party, and around Europe. We know it. We are not blind. But the question is, what is more important? Is it more important to stop the war, to surrender to the demands of Hamas, to have Hamas again as the organization which is controlling Gaza, and we'll have to face a stronger Hamas within a few years. And in between, from time to time, to have an operation in Gaza, because Hamas is gaining strength, and we will have to stop it somehow. All those who are now preaching us will not support us when we will do it. That I know in advance. So the question is, what is there is no good solution here. What is less bad solution? Is it less bad solution to get rid of Hamas and then to deal with all the problems that we are facing around the world within the unbelievable coalition of extreme liberal and extreme jihadists, or and without Hamas near our border, or to have Hamas near our borders and to gain some support, not within this coalition, because this coalition Israel was lost, but within friends of Israel, in the Republican Party and maybe some Democrats. I don't have a clear answer because it's two bad alternatives. But I think that those which look, as I said, for the long range, getting rid of Hamas is more important.
Two other questions I have. One is, and I know you mentioned it, and we talked about it, but I think it's worth addressing one again, which is, again, there are those who say, I'm sorry to ask it, but make a deal, get the hostages back. We owe it to the hostages, and we got to get them out. And we'll have to go back into Gaza maybe in a year or so, but we got to get these hostages out. Now, is your argument be, well, that sounds better but we said we go back in before Arik Sharon, when Israel disengaged from Gaza, said we'll go in if there's one missile, but Israel never went in. And if there's such international criticism now, they'll be even worse in a year. Is that your?
So I have the experience of 3 retreats of Israel. One in Oslo from the West Bank and part of Gaza. One from Lebanon, and the third from Gaza, the unilateral retreat by Arik Sharon. In all the 3 retreats, the cabinet, the leaders, everyone said it clear and loud and no question. If we will face terrorism from the other side of the line, we will blah, 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 blah. Rabin said it, Arik said it, Ehud Barak said it, everyone said it. No one did it. In the West Bank, we had to wait almost 2 years till we had in 1 month 122 people killed. It means 1,500 a year. Only then Arik Sharon, the big Arik Sharon, the big general, only then he moved to the West Bank. Ehud Barak never did it in Lebanon. All his successors didn't make it in Lebanon. Once Ehud Olmert did it, it was a failure, huge failure. And look at Gaza. Arik Sharon declared that that's what he will do. Ehud Olmert was after him, and we had 5 or 4 operations. None of them was a great success. And we got the 7th of October. So with all due respect to all those who are promising us that guys go out and the minute that they do something, we will stand behind you. And at the end of the day, they will not stand behind us. They will stand in front of us and say, stop.
One last question. Do you think the United States has put enough pressure? I mean, let me put it this way. Are there pressure points in Hamas that we really haven't tried after all this time? I mean, for instance, one that comes to mind would be Qatar, right? And Qatar, it didn't ever impress me that Biden administration pressured Qatar. And it doesn't seem like this administration, the Trump administration, has done that either. And obviously, there are a number of senior officials in the Trump administration with various ties to Qatar in the past. But what's your assessment on that?
I think that Qatar is an enemy of Israel. It's a very smart enemy. They are not launching rockets and missiles into Israel, but they are doing everything around the world to delegitimize Israel. They are standing with their money behind many demonstrations around the world against Israel, in many academias in the United States of America. I'm not sure that they are putting a real pressure on Hamas. I don't know. I'm not saying that not. I don't know. What I know is that they are still having the leaders of Hamas in Qatar. They don't say, guys, or you are negotiating honestly, or we are expelling all the leadership of Hamas from Qatar. It's kind of an example what measures had not been taken by Qatar against as a pressure on Hamas. A day will come and we will have to do something with Qatar. They have too much influence in the West, in America, in Washington, in many countries in Europe. They are buying everyone. They are paying everyone. They are putting huge money everywhere, and by that they have too much influence, and they are enemies of the state of Israel.
Any concluding remarks about this issue that we didn't discuss yet?
I must say that in Israel, the argument is huge because of the huge sentiment which exists here for saving the hostages. The whole issue is very, 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 very sensitive. And the Israelis, in spite the huge price that we paid during the war, and in spite the huge success that we had in Lebanon and in Syria and in Iran and in Gaza as well. The fact that we still have 20 hostages in the hands of these barbarians is a huge issue in Israel. I'm not judging it, just describing it. It's a huge issue in Israel. And it is part of the dialogue within the cabinet and make the decision about Gaza much more complicated.
By the way, on that, I mean, I don't know, the last poll I saw, I don't remember, it was the other week, it suggested almost 70% of Israelis want a deal to end the war and get back all the hostages. In the cabinet, I don't know, the reports I was just reading this afternoon here, Aryeh Deri expressed sympathy for General Zamir's position, which was in opposition to taking over Gaza. Besides him, I don't know if is there really any other dissent within the cabinet on this?
No, even in the polls, they don't put in the question the second half. All what you described, but Hamas remain the force which is controlling Gaza from now on. They don't put it. So everyone is for releasing the hostages, no question. Everyone is the whole soldiers will go back home, no question. But they don't put the condition that the consequence of that will be that Hamas will remain the force controlling Gaza. So in a way, it is a poll without real question, because what they offer is not connected to the reality.
Yeah. Look, oh, one last question. I'm sorry, Jeffrey Korn, who's a fellow with us, asked this, and then we'll conclude. He asks, will the proposed occupation, in your opinion, mitigate the many problems related to humanitarian assistance? Instead of facilitating such assistance, doesn't this move shift responsibility for providing for essential needs to the IDF?
If the IDF will take the whole Gaza Strip and will declare a military regime, they will have the obligation to support the population. But if it will be kind of war area in which there is continuance of the war, and the civilians, you have to take care only for their humanitarian aid, and to be sure that they are not involved in the war, they are not under fire within the two sides. So it is totally different situation.
How do you also, on that, a follow-up on Jeff Korn asked was, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which Israel was instituting, which actually was based somewhat on some JINSA ideas that we put out a year and a half ago, idea to separate, make sure to try to get the distribution of the aid outside the hands of the UN and the Hamas.
That is the idea. It works not completely. It's not full. Hamas try to stop the people who are coming and to take. They are looting from the people which are getting it. So to achieve a real change, you have to separate between the population and Hamas. And now Hamas, most of the population, or at least more than half of the population, is not more. Half of the population is in the area which is controlled by Hamas. So to make there a separation between Hamas and the population is very, very hard.
You think Israel's going to continue to try to make that work?
Yes, they are speaking about broadening the number of those centers after moving the civilians out of the area which are controlled by Hamas.
Yeah, you mean when those centers? You mean America would also be help setting up some more centers?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
We have today, I think, 4, and they want to have 16 or something.
Okay. You have to have improved security along that. Now there's
Yes, yes, yes. But if you separate, if you do it in an area which is not under control of Hamas, it's much easier.
Easier. Okay. And they've
I
been
want to add one remark, which is not Gaza.
Sorry.
There are efforts now to put pressure on Hezbollah to disarm, and I think that what the Americans are doing is a very good job, and it might happen against all odds and all of us, very veterans of Lebanon, which don't believe that Hamas will give up. But it might happen because Hamas is in a very bad situation, never was in such a situation. It lost the connection to Iran because Syria is out of the bridge, and there is no bridge without Syria. So it might happen. The big problem is how I mean, United States of America and Israel, monitoring Iran and making all the steps which are needed not to let Iran to go back to the same situation that it had been before the 12 days, meaning that they have a live and successful nuclear project. They have the ability to produce long-range missile in big numbers, and they have anti-air defense systems to defend all these efforts. Today, they don't have the anti-air defense. They lost most of their ability to produce missiles, and half of their ability to launch missiles. And they probably had been pushed a few years back in the nuclear project. We have to make sure both, after the price that we paid, United States of America and Israel, to achieve this goal, that we are not going back, and the Iranians are not using the fact that we are very satisfied from what was achieved to rebuild their capabilities. It's very important. Strategically, it's more important than Gaza.
We put out a paper at JINSA on beginning of July saying not over, and we listed triggers that if Iran does certain actions, I encourage everyone to look on our website about it. It's only a few pages. If certain Iranian actions that should trigger Israeli military or American military intervention to counter. But I agree with you. We'll be following that, or we should do it. We'll do a webinar on Lebanon soon. What's going on there has been really impressive to watch. Look, I want to thank you, General Amidror, and I also want to thank you for wearing a JINSA colors with your JINSA shirt. I want to let everyone else know on this that you all could have a free JINSA shirt if you go on one of our delegations to Israel. So please let our office know.
It's a very expensive shirt.
Yeah, that's true. Very comfortable and very durable. I've had them for a few, they last for years. All right, General, thank you very much, and we wish you a good night in Israel.
Thank you very much.